Okay, a quick word about this DJI F450 quadcopter. After spending the day yesterday flying it strictly FPV, I had a lot of fun with it. Figured out a couple of things I need to change. First of all, these 10 millimeter carbon fiber feet here that raises it off the ground gets it nice and high, but the problem is the way they're angled here and the size of this bird is when I come down to land, especially with my goggles and I'm not perfectly up and down, it's very easy to tip it over. And I tipped it over and nicked a blade or two. The only issue I've had with flying is landing it with these legs here. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking them off and just putting this thing on the regular legs on the bottom. It's going to sit very low to the ground. I'll be able to do that after I finish tweaking my KK 2.0 board right here. Once I'm done tweaking that and it's flying the way I want, I'll be able to move it inside. My battery will go on top, and then I won't have anything on the bottom. I'll be able to take these legs off. Overall, this quad was just a pleasure to fly. I really had a lot of fun with it. FPV, a lot more fun than I thought I was going to have with it. It flew great. The first flight I flew with the auto level on this KK board, and it didn't go very well. I don't like the way it flies with the auto level on. Now this is version 1.2. It's an old firmware, so I need to upgrade this to 1.5. I understand the auto level works a lot better, but I don't have auto level assigned to one of my receiver channels right now, so I'm arming it with the stick. So I arm it before takeoff. I can turn it on or turn it off. I can't turn it on or off in flight. So turning it on, leaving it on for the whole flight, not very good idea. It was sluggish. It wasn't easy to fly. It wasn't fun to fly. Turned it off, and man, this thing really came to life. I just had a ball flying it FPV. It's fast. It's maneuverable. It's no problems whatsoever. I just had a good time. I say no problems whatsoever. No problems with the quadcopter itself. The only real problem I have is trying to get myself out of the habit of flying airplanes. I'm a bank and yank kind of person, and I don't do much with the rudder. And these don't fly that well without rudder input. So bank and yank didn't work too well for me. But that's okay. I'm slowly but surely, coming into my own with these multi-rotors. The next thing is the props. I spent a lot of time yesterday trying various props to see which ones were the best mix of thrust and efficiency, and I came up with these APC slow fly 10 by 3.8 props. Those are the best ones I've used so far. I started with the 8-inch props, and it did fly, but not enough thrust with all the gear loaded down on it. Just with the quadcopter by itself, the 8-inch props worked fine on 3-cell. But once I added all my FPV gear to it, it was a little bit sluggish. So I tried the 10 by 4.5s, 10 by 4.7s, and the 10 by 3.8s. And I did not put 9 by 4.7s on here, although I do have a set of those coming, and I was out of them yesterday. I have to say, I really like that KK board version 2.0 for flying. The auto level I have to put on a switch, and I can see that auto level coming in really handy for landing. I'm really bad at landing with my goggles on. I got to take the goggles off to land, and it's really a pain in the butt because trying to adjust my eyes to the sun, it's not that good. So I think if I can just flick the auto level on just for landing, and maybe when I want to stop and take a look at something, like get close to a tree or a building or whatever, I think auto level will be helpful for that. But just flying around, it's got to be off. I'm retiring all of my 5.8 gigahertz FPV gear, with the exception of the video transmitter that comes with my Fat Shark goggles. Everything is currently being converted over to 1.3 gigahertz. And I've been buying these little 200 milliwatt 1280 megahertz transmitters, and they're fairly inexpensive and they are really nice quality. I've got a couple more here. It's very tiny, perfect for these little quadcopters. It's very light, very well made. It looks like a better made deal than most of the transmitters that I've purchased. These actually contain 2 channels that are legal in the US now. 1280 megahertz, which is what I fly, and this also includes 1258 megahertz, which is now legal to fly in the United States. So that's pretty cool, and I'm really liking these things. I ordered 2 or 3 of them just to try, and I like them so much that I'm going to order 2 or 3 more, and they're going on every one of my airplanes and quadcopters and tricopters, everything. And I'm going strictly 1280 megahertz for video. I'm keeping the Fat Shark 5.8 gigahertz transmitter because what I'm doing, I'm basically feeding the 1280 megahertz to my ground station, and then feeding that into my 5.8 gigahertz Fat Shark system to go to my goggles. So that means everything is wireless. I don't have any wires on my goggles at all, regardless of using the 1.2 gigahertz system. I like to stay wireless. So now I'm using 2 video transmitter systems, one from here to the ground station, and then from the ground station to my goggles. But it really, I like the freedom of being able to walk around and move while I'm flying, and I'm not tethered by any wires, so that's great. The only other thing I need to add to this quadcopter is some kind of OSD, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to put a full-fledged OSD on here. Probably not. I don't fly these things far enough to really need GPS or return to launch. But what I would like to have is some way to monitor my batteries, and so basically Hobby King sells 2 little OSDs, little mini OSDs. One is the EOSD, which basically is tiny, perfect for multi-rotors. Got a little button on it for resetting, and basically all it does is monitor your battery voltage and has a little timer on there. And I think that's all I really need on this quad. They've got 2 different ones. They've got the EOSD and the mini OSD. I'm not sure what the difference is. One's a little more expensive than the other, but I got them both tried, and so we'll try those out on these multi-rotors. So yeah, after a good day of flying FPV, I put probably maybe 6 FPV flights on this yesterday, and it's like my favorite FPV ship.